this is Sophie Lawson from sophielawson.com, and this is episode 10 of the So-Free Art podcast, which is a little podcast about art and things. I think this one's going to be a little tiny one, actually. I was going to make it all be about balance, but right at the last minute I decided to instead talk about something that I did in a lucid dream, which I think would be quite interesting. And it's only like the start of it, but it was quite exciting. So I'm going to talk about that today, and maybe I'll do balance next week or something. But it's going to be only a little podcast, I think, and hopefully you enjoy it. It's episode 10, which is quite amazing because it's gone so quickly, and I wanted to take a little moment to say thank you for the nice comments that I've been getting, especially Alison and Margaret, who are both writers and said that they're really enjoying the podcast, which is very nice, so thank you. And I think you might actually get something out of this podcast today, because it's about a little thing with lucid dreaming which you could actually use with your writing. So I'll talk about that in a moment. But Margaret actually was kind enough to send me one of her books, and it's called Perfectly Me, and it's all about what she did was she teamed up with a photographer, and they took photographs of they got a load of people together, like random different people, and they took photographs of their body, and it was all about their body and like their body image and stuff. And then she interviewed them, and they put together this book of how the people view their bodies and stuff. It was really interesting. And what I actually said to Margaret was, like, it was all about the body, but in a strange way I found it was more to do with the mind, because it's all like how the way you look at your body is to do with your mind, really. So I found it a really interesting book, and she actually has a website at perfectlyme.com.au, and I'll put links in the show notes and everything. But you could get a copy of the book for yourself if you go to that website. And it was a really nice book, so hopefully you enjoy that as well. And I think we can go into the podcast now. So, like I say, it was going to be about balance, because this week I've decided to sell my PS4 Pro and my PS3 and the Vita. And honestly, I wasn't really playing them much anyway. I was only playing the PS4, and I was only playing it for about an hour a week on a Saturday night. So I decided to basically get rid of it, and I've used that money and put it towards a Surface Pro. And I picked up a Surface Pro 2 on eBay, a second-hand one, and I've also purchased a Wacom stylus so that I can do my drawings on it. And what it means is I'll be able to do my lilSOPHIE digital drawings in bed, and I'll be able to quickly get the Surface Pro out and just jump into drawings instead of having to set the computer up and sit on the chair and stuff. Hopefully it'll be just a bit easier. So I'm looking forward to getting that. I should get that next week sometime, and I might do a review of it or something on YouTube, because I'm also going to be starting up my YouTube again. Hopefully that'll be in the next couple of days. I've been working on new thumbnails for the videos and stuff, so I'll put a link in the show notes again. But you can find that at sophielawson.com/YouTube. That goes straight to the page. But the podcast is actually going to be about lucid dreaming and lilSOPHIE. And this is amazing what happened, because on episode 2, so that would have been about 2 months ago now, I spoke about my first ever lucid dream, and it was so amazing, because at that point I didn't even know what lucid dreaming was really. But this dream was so amazing, and it's where you become aware in a dream. So you become aware that you're dreaming, and you can start interacting with the dream. And it's almost like you're awake, but you're still dreaming. So you're awake, your mind is awake, but you're still in the dream world. So you know that you're dreaming, but you're awake. It's amazing. And so like what I said at the time, what I still feel is that in the lucid dream, it actually feels more real than real. So everything that you experience in there is just like really heightened, and so any emotion is like really like, it's like, I guess it's off the charts. It really gets to you. So that's a good thing and a bad thing, because it means anything that's slightly scary is even more scary. But then anything that is like really nice and loving is just unbelievable. I almost think it's sometimes too emotional in there. But I've had a few more lucid dreams since then. I think about 4 or 5. And last week I came up with this idea. It kind of came from nowhere, but I had this idea of going into a lucid dream and meeting lilSOPHIE. And lilSOPHIE is my chibi inspired character. If you look at the image on the podcast, she's actually the character, so that's lilSOPHIE. And I had this idea of going into a lucid dream and just meeting up with her, because, well, honestly, I absolutely love lilSOPHIE, and I just want to do my absolute best to bring her to life. And I just thought, if I go into a lucid dream, some of the things I could do would be amazing. Like, for instance, I could sit down with her and just talk to her and find out what her personality's like, so that when I come back into the waking life, I can sort of, I've got a better understanding of her, and I can really let her come to life. And the things you could do is that you could sit down and ask her to do poses for you, because you can sort of control the dream, but at the same time, she would be in control of herself at the same time. It's kind of weird, but so she would be able to pick poses that she knows are amazing, that I would never be able to come up with. And then, like, when she's done these poses, and maybe even wearing like crazy outfits and stuff, I could then wake myself up with a sketchbook at the side of my bed and quickly sketch out like with the pose she was doing, and then try my best to bring that to life digitally to make like a finished painting. So that was one thing. But then I started thinking, because when I first started lilSOPHIE, the idea was to have her be a character in like a manga, and I was going to do a webcomic, but I've sort of gone off that idea recently, because I've just enjoyed just doing these little affirmation paintings, but I'd still want to do this webcomic with her. But I also started thinking I could turn it into little kids' books or something. So I thought I could go into a lucid dream, sit down with her, and she could tell me stories, and then when I wake up, I could like bring these stories to life. I could quickly write out notes from the stories before I forget them, and then later on build on them to put them into proper stories. And this is where it comes into like Alison and Margaret, who I know are listening and are writers. If you start going to lucid dreams, you could start like talking to your characters and stuff to get a real good understanding of them, and like bring your stories to life. I've also been dealing with some personal issues in the lucid dreams, which is where I said about like the emotions. Like some of these personal issues have been quite scary, to the point where I was getting quite scared to go into the dreams at one point. I managed to get over that, but I was thinking like I could sit with lilSOPHIE, and she could almost become like my lucid dreaming therapist or something, and she could give me advice on how to deal with some of my personal issues, basically. But I'm struggling to understand them. So again, she might be able to help me with that. So, but how this relates to lucid dreaming is, the other night, I said to myself, I was lying in bed just before I went to bed, and I decided that I was going to try my best to meet lilSOPHIE in a dream. So I just said, I kept repeating in my head, tonight in my dreams I will become lucid and meet lilSOPHIE. And I just kept repeating, tonight in my dreams I will become lucid and meet lilSOPHIE. Tonight in my dreams I will become lucid and meet lilSOPHIE. And I kept repeating that, and then I drifted off to sleep. And that night I had so many dreams, but then one of them, I found myself at the bottom of the stairs in the passage, and this energy just flew through the passage back and forth and went into the kitchen. I couldn't see it, but it felt slightly scary. It was almost like a ghost, I guess, flying through the passage. And I know if I'd let the thought of it being a scary thing, I would have probably woken myself up. But instead, I said, because Robert Wagner, who's this lucid dreaming expert, he always says to go towards the energy. Even if it's scary or something, just go towards the energy, because that's where you're going to learn the most. So I remembered that, and I said, okay, I have to go towards this energy, even though it's a little bit scary, I guess. And I went into the kitchen, and I couldn't see nothing. It seemed like there was nobody there. But then I felt somebody holding my hands, and I looked down at my hands, and I saw lilSOPHIE's little hands in my hands. Her little basic cell-shaded hands were holding my hands, and I just got overwhelmed with this feeling of comfort. It was really nice. It was a really nice feeling. And in the dream I started crying, saying, lilSOPHIE, lilSOPHIE. And I was crying so much that I woke myself up. And as I woke up, I was crying in my bed. It was that, emotional. And I just couldn't believe that I had actually managed to do something that I was trying to do. And I didn't see lilSOPHIE. All I saw was her hands. But that's a start, I guess. So I know now that it is going to be possible to meet her. I just wanted to talk about that because I think it's fascinating. The possibilities are amazing. Just imagine if you created a character and then you can actually go and meet them, talk to them. It almost seems impossible, but it's actually, I think it's going to be possible. So I just wanted to share that because it shows sort of the power of lucid dreaming. Oh, and there's something else as well, because on the last blog post on the website, the art blog, I said I was going to put a post together about studying how light and shadows works with my wooden mannequin figure. And I haven't put the post out yet, but I have actually spent a couple of hours shining lights on my mannequin and studying where the light falls and where the shadows fall, so I can try to understand how to put that into drawings, because it's one of my main weaknesses at the moment, is trying to draw light, is trying to understand how light and shadow works in my mind without having reference images. And I think it's important to have that, because if you draw a character in a random pose, you might not have the light and shadow reference. You would need to know how it actually works so that you can make it up and it look realistic. So I have done that, and I wrote a little draft of the blog, and I've taken loads of photos and videos and everything, and I'm going to put that together on the blog post soon. But what I thought was, this is how amazing it could be, is that I could go into a lucid dream, meet lilSOPHIE, and then I could have her help me by doing different poses and having the dream shine lights on her, and basically have the dream and her give me advice and tips on how to study the lighting. Again, it's just another way of I guess improving my arts within the lucid dream, and I'm just really excited. I think that's it, really. So that was episode 10. You can send me a message at sophie@sophielawson.com. You can find show notes at sophieart.com. You can find me on Twitter at sophielawsonart, and Instagram at sophie.lawson. All that's left really is this week's inspirational quote, and it's actually from, I don't know who said this, and I can't find out online. Online everyone just says it's from unknown, so this is from unknown, but it's a really nice quote, and the quote is, "It's the little things that make life big," or as I like to say, it's the little things that make life big.